Welcome to Roadmap to 1 Million. My name is Stacy Zeal, and if you're looking to make more money, gain your time back, and rapidly grow your visibility so that you can impact way more people with your brilliance, you're in the right place. This podcast is your one-stop shop for turning your online business dreams into a reality. My main goal is to give women entrepreneurs just like you the marketing strategies, guidance, and expert insights you need to hit that $1 million milestone and beyond. Whether you're a coach, a consultant, or an online brand that wants to make a big impact, Roadmap to 1 Million gives you the actionable strategies and inspiration you need so that you can implement right away, no fluff, no fuss. So, CEO, are you ready to buckle up and accelerate your growth? Be sure to follow the show and let's dive in. Get ready to uncover your roadmap to 1 million. Hey, y'all. Welcome back to the Roadmap to 1 Million podcast. My name is Stacy, and I am super excited for y'all to be here because today we are spotlighting another founder. And y'all know that I love to be able to bring on founders who create amazing tools or amazing ways for us to really kind of, as business owners, to find ways to improve our workflow, spend a lot less time on marketing, finding ways to gain our time back. And today I have Waro, who is the co-founder of Podsqueeze. And so Podsqueeze, I use Podsqueeze. Let me tell y'all, I use Podsqueeze every week to get this podcast out. This episode is going to be run through Podsqueeze as soon as we finish. And so I love the tool, and I know that a lot of y'all out there are either podcasters or considering starting podcasts. So wanted to make sure that I talk to y'all about some different tools and different things that I use to help streamline my process. So welcome to the podcast. How are you doing today?
Thank you, Stacy, for your invitation. I'm doing great. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you here. So, let's talk a little bit about your journey before you
hmm
started Pod Squeeze. And I know that from reading your bio and everything like that, you are a serial entrepreneur. And I think that a lot of people on the show that listen to the show can relate to that, either having different businesses that they run currently or starting different businesses throughout their journey. So, tell us a little bit about your background and your journey before you created Pod Squeeze.
Yeah, I think most entrepreneurs, they figure out they are really entrepreneurs very early because they always have that drive to create side projects. So since I was a kid, I always looked for new projects, whether it was to sell like trading cards to my friends in school, to building stuff. I like DIY stuff, doing restorations, stuff like that. But my first serious business was in college. I actually took the course of landscape architecture. So when I was in college, I created my first more serious business, which was like some a type of planters that you hang on the wall, and you can create like these vertical gardens for herbs. You can have them on your balcony, where people don't have too much space, they could still grow their herbs. So that was my first business. It was a retail business. I created the products and I sold them to stores. Then my second serious business after that one was like it never really took off. It was great to make some extra money, but it was just like an extra money business. It didn't really pay a salary, but I was like 17 or 18 years old. I don't remember exactly. Then my second serious business was Donny Dough, which was like a food truck where we actually introduced cookie dough in Portugal, in Lisbon. Cookie dough is a very American thing. It is not very well known to Portuguese people, so we had to do all the marketing and communication and introduce cookie dough to the Portuguese people. We started with a food truck, and then eventually we built a physical store here in the heart of Lisbon. Then yeah, I started this business with a partner. We were able to create this business with only like 20,000 euros, so divided by two. We did because I'm a DIY man. I created all the inside the shop, the counter, everything, like all the decoration and renovation. So we managed to keep it very cheaply. So yeah, unfortunately, COVID came and the business failed again. So, but on the side, I always worked as a freelance designer. So I always kept that side business. And my third serious business was Podsqueeze, which I started like 5 months ago with a partner as well. Um, and this was the first business that really took off. At this moment, we have, I think, around 4,000 users, from which around 500 are paying users. So in about 5 months, we were able to achieve um, 12,000 K MRR, which was very surprising to us. And yeah, right now we are rediscovering entrepreneurship, because with a successful business comes all the administrative and all the management that a more serious business requires. And yeah, we are on that phase right now.
Yeah. I love that. I always love hearing the kind of the entrepreneurial journey because I find that we're always pivoting, we're always trying new things, we always have
Yeah,
these different
yeah,
ideas,
yeah.
and really kind of like the way that our life kind of moves, it shifts and
Mhm.
changes. Our businesses shift and changes with our life. So I love that. So tell us about Podsqueeze. So what is Podsqueeze, and tell us a little bit about why you created or how it really kind of came about.
Yeah, so um, before creating Pod Squeeze, I partnered with his friend, and we at this point we had already acquired a lot of experience building products and some experience in entrepreneurship, and we thought to ourselves, okay, so what is going to be our strategy? We need to create one product every 2 weeks, and we have to test it very fast, build it fast, ship it fast, see if it sticks. If it doesn't, we kill it and we move on. So we brainstormed. Okay, what are we going to create first? The first project we created was like an indie, we called indie lottery, which was a website where indie makers like ourselves could submit their products, and every day the indie lottery would pick one project and send to everyone who was who subscribed,
Mhm.
who created their product there. So it was like a lottery for people to advertise to everyone. So the website didn't really, it kind of, we achieved like 200 users, but we stagnated there, and so we decided to kill it. We moved on, so we did another brainstorm. Okay, what's going to be our next bet? So my colleague is a podcaster. There was this new AI wave, and we were thinking, okay, we must create a product to integrate GPT in it, use this new technology. So we were brainstorming. We thought about content repurposing, since it was a podcast. Okay, let's apply content repurposing to podcasting. So we thought, well, with GPT, we can actually achieve something like Pod Squeeze. Let's try it. In about 2 weeks, we created an MVP, like a minimum viable product. We tested, and suddenly that quick success happened, which was very surprising to us. So we posted it. We created the MVP. We posted it on Reddit. We posted in some groups, and suddenly we started to get very positive feedback very quickly, and this was like an hint that we could be on something. So we started to took off. The first sales started to appear very fast, and that's basically how Podsqueeze was born.
Yeah. I love that. I love that you mentioned one, you put out the minimum viable product because sometimes as entrepreneurs, we're like, I need to make it perfect. I need to keep going, keep it in the background, not telling anybody about it until I feel like it's perfect. But with Pot
Yeah.
Squeeze, y'all were just like, let's create something, let's get it out there, let's get some feedback, and let's move pretty quickly. So I love that. And I find
Yeah.
that tech founders kind of approach things that way, where they're like, I need to be able to like, validate this idea before I
Mm-hmm.
put all of this effort into it. And then sometimes our online service providers are like, well, I need to make sure it's perfect before I put it out there. Are you a CEO with an amazing one-to-many offer who's tired of creating endless amounts of content that is not helping you hit your high revenue goals? Well, look no further than Maximize with Ads. Maximize with Ads is designed to help you exponentially increase your sales, rapidly grow your visibility, and gain your time back by leveraging the power of Facebook and Instagram ads. From developing a scalable Facebook ad strategy to setting up your tech to targeting the right audiences and creating irresistible ads, we've got you covered. Plus, our private support community is always available to answer your questions and provide personalized feedback. If you're ready to stop spending all your valuable CEO time creating endless amounts of content and start executing a leveraged strategy that allows you to travel the world, pay for private school, or start living the life you started your business to live in the first place, then head over to maximizewithads.com to enroll. Visit maximizewithads.com to learn more and get started today. All right, let's jump back into the episode. So tell us about how Podsqueeze works, or how does Podsqueeze actually help podcasters? What are some things that it does for us podcasters?
Yeah, we made Podsqueeze to be very simple to use. It is basically it's a simple interface where you can simply upload your podcast episode and you hit the button generate content, and basically you are redirected to a page where you get show notes, timestamps, newsletters, Facebook, LinkedIn posts, quotes, bullet points. So all the assets that generally podcasters need for their podcast promotion. So we do this all automatically with AI. We basically process your podcast audio, we transcribe it, and from the transcription, we run the transcription to through a series of prompts, and we are able to create all these sorts of assets.
Yeah.
So we created Podsqueeze for both podcasters and for agencies. So some agencies that also manage podcasts, they find Podsqueeze very useful because they can organize all the podcasts they are managing. They can save instructions, AI instruction prompts basically to tune each content and save it for each podcast they are managing. So they can have an instruction to tune a podcast for a certain tone and another podcast for another tone, and everything gets so very streamlined very easily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And let me tell y'all, I rarely ever respond to cold emails, but that's how I
Mm-hmm.
discovered Podsqueeze. I was literally just checking my email, and every time I get a cold email, I'm like, what? Like, what do
Yeah.
you want? Um, but then when I read the email, and it was just like, okay, well, you can get your show notes created and all of these different assets created for you. That got my wheels turning, because this is my second podcast that I've had. I have another podcast called High on Self-Care that was all about like cannabis and wellness and that kind of thing. And I've had the same assistant for a couple of years, and her and I have been working on the podcast. Now that at this point, now
Mm-hmm.
we had our process down. Like, we have, standard operating procedures of how we get the podcast out. And then so I get this email from Podsqueeze, and I'm like, I send it to my assistant. I say, hey, let's try this out. See if this tool actually works. It says we could try it for free, so let's try it out. And honestly, it really helps to improve our workflow. And because how my assistant and I use it is that she is the one, so I record the podcast, and we have our whole process for how I record it and get it over to her. She takes it, she runs it through Podsqueeze, she creates the show notes. And so she then sends me a shell of some show notes. So she'd take it out of Podsqueeze, kind of, tune it up a little bit. I know she put some prompts and stuff in there to kind of, refine it and get it to on our brand.
Mm-hmm.
But then she sends that to me. And so my job as the CEO and the podcaster had gotten so much lighter, because she's already giving me a starting point, right? Like, so she has a starting point.
Yeah.
She's able to give that to me. I'm able to kind of go in, and maybe I tweak, a couple sentences here or there. And then I
Mm-hmm.
send it back to her, and I say, all right, these show notes are ready to go. And then from the show notes, what we do is we'll take the show notes and we'll also kind of, I mean, we've already, Podsqueeze gives us the show notes, but then we'll go into Podsqueeze and say, okay, let's get some tweets. Let's get some, social media posts. And that's one of the things I love about AI is that it gives you a starting point, because sometimes it gets a little like when you just are staring at a blank page, you're just like, where do I start? What do I say?
Exactly,
Like
yeah.
how does this work? But that's one of the things I love about the tool is that really it has helped to improve the workflow between myself and my assistant, because she's able to really kind of, instead of starting from scratch. Because before what we had was just a template for show notes. I was like, okay, let's have an introduction paragraph where we talk a little bit about the episode. Let's have some bullet points. So we had really just a shell of show notes in our Google Doc, and that was working fine, until we discovered Podsqueeze and realized, okay, well, we can actually just upload the episode straight into the system, and it'll kick us out show notes so that both of us have a starting point. So she's not starting from just a Google Doc with some guidance. And then I get a fully developed show note, so that way I just go in, make a couple tweaks, and then just send it back to her, and it's like, okay, now you're good to go. So that's one of the things I love about the tool. And I think as podcasters, one of the biggest challenges that we have is our time, is how much time it takes to get a podcast out. Like today for me, as I'm recording this, today is podcast day for me. So I'm going to be recording 4 more episodes after we finish this episode. And so like the recording piece of it, that takes time, outlining, recording, all that kind of stuff. But then there is this post-production that does actually take time, especially if you want your podcast to be discovered by search engines, which is namely the main thing we use our show notes for. It's like blog posts and things like that to be able to, get picked up by Google and all those kinds of things. So I love Podsqueeze. And so what do you think about, AI in general for podcasters? Where do you kind of see AI fitting in with podcasters and helping us to really kind of grow our shows and make a big impact? Because there's a lot of times when we start podcasts, right, we have something to say, so we really want to be able to get it out there and have people listen to it. But where do you see AI in general impacting the podcasting space?
Yeah, well, I'm not a podcaster, but I am a designer. My co-founder is the podcaster, so he could probably answer that question better than me. But what I can tell you is, as a designer, AI has been changing a lot the way I work. So I imagine that would be the same for podcasters. With the new generative AI, there are a lot of like illustrations that I don't need to do anymore. Or I do like as you describe Podsqueeze, for example, I generate an image and then I just go to Photoshop and I just tweak it a little bit and it's very close to a final product. So it helps me a lot streamline my workflow, and I would imagine that AI is going to basically take off the hassle from podcasters' shoulders. What I can tell you is from so I'm work as a UX UI designer for Podsqueeze. So part of my work in Podsqueeze is listen to the podcasters' feedback and try to prioritize that feedback and see what we should implement next in Podsqueeze. And one of the most requested features, so we have been collecting feedback from day one, and we have been implementing all these things. For example, that workflow you are describing with your colleague, that was something that podcasters asked us for a system where you could share easily the results with their colleagues so they could collaborate. So we introduced that shareable link on the results page where you can simply share the results with your colleague. But another thing that podcasters have been asking us is video clips. So far we have been creating written assets, show notes, timestamps, all that stuff. The next phase for Podsqueeze is probably to also generate with AI video clips, images for social media. So it's going to be the media phase, and we are already working on it. So ultimately, and as AI smartness increases, and I think probably podcasters won't need to worry too much on creating like everything that they need for their marketing. We are going to be able to produce images, videos, show notes, all those kinds of tests for posts and all that stuff. So I think that is going to be the way, at least for Podsqueeze, that what Podsqueeze is going to provide.
Yeah, I love that. My ears perked up when you said videos and images because I'm like, that is definitely the next iteration that I can see of what will be helpful for myself and my team. Because that's the other thing that we do
Mhm.
is when we're creating social media posts, I'm creating reels, I am, or I'll take usually how I work is that I write the caption first and then I'll figure out like, okay, what is the image or the video that goes with this? And
Yeah.
so if I already have the videos and images, right, then all I have to do is write the captions, or all I have to do is pull the captions out of Podsqueeze and just reformat them a little bit, and just be able to really improve my workflow. So I love that. So what are you seeing in your industry now that is important for us to really kind of pay attention to as business owners, as podcasters, or even as tech founders? Because I want to make sure that everyone who's listening to this, because your journey definitely from already dropped a lot of information about making sure that you get that minimum viable product out there, making sure you test it with your audience first. Don't go all in on something until your audience tells you that that's something that they want. What is something that you are seeing as a business owner that is really kind of that you're paying attention to that you think is going to help you to really kind of take Pod Squeeze to the next level?
For Podsqueeze, it's just right now it's just implementing the normal UX UI process. So just listening to your users, iterate very fast, see what people say about the new features, try to improve what you have. So that's going to be our natural path for Podsqueeze. But as an entrepreneur, what I've learned from this journey is really to build fast, ship fast, and see what it sticks. For example, you were mentioning that you when you received our cold email, that was a little bit different than the other cold emails. You
Mm-hmm.
actually paid attention, and that is something that was very revealing to us because for the first time people were actually thanking us for sending cold emails to people, which was okay. This is weird. Normally, people would just insult us. Now people just are thanking for receiving these cold emails, and this was what we needed to conclude that we should spend more time with bot squeeze like this these different ints like people actually cared for this product, and most of the time people just ignore what you do because your product is not it doesn't have product market fit. So the main goal for an entrepreneur, at least for me now and for my partner, for my colleague, is really to, if we are going to create a new product, you should just build it very fast, ship it very fast, and pay attention to these ints around you. And if people are thanking for your cold emails, if people are, even if your minimum viable product is a little bit buggy, if people are trying to help you to resolve those bugs and are really investing in your prototype, that probably means that you have a winning product. So if you don't see anything of that happening in like the first 1 or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, you probably don't need to spend too much time on that product. Just kill it and move on. And I think this is really the best formula. I know there's no formula for a successful business, but if there's one, this is probably it. I've even found a way for people to brainstorm products easier. So um, normally when you start a new idea, the idea is to build a product that solves people's problems. That's the idea. Okay, so let's investigate what are some people's problems, try to come up with a solution. But if you but what I've been learning is that more than solving people's problems is solving people's boredom. So what you can do is go into ChatGPT and ask, for example, give me like the most boring. I know you are a marketeer, like you work with Facebook ads. You can simply ask ChatGPT something like, give me the list of the most boring tasks that marketeers that work with Facebook ads have, and Postgres will give you a list of boring tasks, and okay, from that list, what's the absolutely most boring task of them all, and and GPT will give you a very boring task. If you can come up with a product that solves that very boring task, you probably have a winning product. And then you create that product in 2 weeks. You create a prototype, you share it on Reddit, and you see if people are interested in that. If they are not, you kill it. If they are, just you probably have a winning product. And that's going from now on, that's going to be our formula basically. And that's what I recommend people to do.
Yeah. I love that. That's such great advice. Like build it fast, ship it fast, and really kind of listen to that feedback and really kind of figure out where your audience is, who your audience is, all that kind of stuff. I know that for sure Podsqueeze definitely solves a problem for us over in my business, which was spending a lot of time writing these show notes. We post a podcast every week. And so, and as we grow, we get busier, right? Like there are things that,
Yeah.
when I had first started my other podcast, I had a whole lot of time. Now I have, don't have as much time, but I still, value my podcast and people love it and people are always talking about it. And we've actually even integrated AI into our course, to our course Maximize with Ads. Because that's one of the things I found was that people and for me, it's really important for people to plan out your campaign, write really good copy, and create video ads, because I believe video ads are definitely a great way to stand out. And so we took AI and we took ChatGPT and we're like, okay, let's get some prompts together for people so that they can write their copy faster, they can plan the actual campaigns out, and they can actually create video scripts. And so we're always trying to find ways to figure out, like, how can we make this process of running Facebook ads a lot easier for people? Because that sometimes is the messy piece, is that the setup is the part that kind of slows people down, or the part that they really want to skip. And that's why people are boosting posts and things like that, because it's like, oh, this is easy. Let me just go ahead and boost a post, even though it's a waste of money. So I love that. So I definitely recommend, if you are a podcaster out there and you really want to figure out how to make your podcast a little bit lighter of a lift. Like, yes, we're going to still have to record and all those kinds of things. But if you can make that back end piece of it a little easier by inserting tools like Podsqueeze to help you to get these show notes, get the social media captions, it even gives you titles and stuff like that, y'all. So if you are someone who doesn't come up with your titles till the end of your podcast, like me, like I will record first and then I come up with the title, because I have a topic and outline and things like that. But I'm like, what is the title? And so it even gives you titles, it gives you blog posts, it gives you newsletters, all that kind of good stuff. So I am definitely also an affiliate of Podsqueeze. So I definitely recommend that if you are a podcaster, you want to integrate this into your workflow, or even if you're an agency, right? Because I do have some colleagues who do have podcast agencies, and you're having to write show notes for people and all that kind of good stuff. I definitely recommend you check out Podsqueeze. You can actually get started for free. So head over to my link, stacyzeal.co/Podsqueeze. That's my affiliate link. And you'll be able to go ahead and start the program for free. So thank you so much for coming on the show. Before we get out of here, tell everybody where they can find you, how they can connect with Podsqueeze, anything that you want to kind of leave us with.
Yeah, so people can access Podsqueeze at podsqueeze.com. Recently, we've started to invest a little bit more time on our social media, but it is still, our Instagram is still very young. But we are going to upload content regularly. Actually, one of our projects for Podsqueeze right now is to create like a learning center. We have already created 3 ebooks, which we are going to repurpose and of course transform into Instagram posts and blog posts. So if people want to get more tips, even tips on how to take the most out of Podsqueeze, how to take the most out of their show notes and all the content we produce at Podsqueeze, they can follow us on Instagram. And we are always open for discussion and to hear people's ideas. If they want to reach out to us through email or on our support chat, we are always there. So send us a message. If they have feedback, just let us know. We are always adding feedback to our backlog. So we are always happy to hear any ideas and share any ideas.
Awesome. Well, y'all heard it. Yeah, if you are a podcaster and you're really looking for ways to improve your workflow, definitely check out Podsqueeze. My affiliate link is going to be in the show notes. Again, that's stacyzeal.co/Podsqueeze, but you can go to the show notes of this episode and grab that link. But yeah, thanks so much for coming on the show. We're going to go ahead and leave it here. I'll see y'all next week for another episode. And make sure that you are following the show so you don't miss any episodes. Make sure that you leave us a review, because reviews help us to reach more people and to get this message across a lot more listeners. So thanks so much, y'all. I'll catch y'all on the next episode. OMG, that episode was packed with gems. Are you ready for more? Head over to stacyzeal.co/podcast to get the show notes and to sign up to get our top 5 podcast episodes to help you streamline your marketing so you can make this your $1 million year. Head over to stacyzeal.co/podcast.